Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another night at the Round Table. Tonight, we explore the film The Shape of Water. With us tonight is David Flora from Blurry Photos. David, say hello.
Hey, how's it going?
And Justin Zinger from Zing This. Justin, say
I
hello.
also say hello.
Welcome, gentlemen. We sat down and watched this movie. Well, full disclosure, we watched it 2 weeks ago, then we recorded, and we didn't actually record. That was my screw-up. That was my fault, so I'm taking 100% of the blame here. Something went wrong with my Okay, I didn't do it right. I made a mistake. So anyway, we're doing this again for the second time, so bear with us. We're going to try to recreate all our jokes and all the fun stuff. So anyway, this is going to be challenging.
It's not going to sound forced at all.
No, not at all. So as I said, we did watch 2017's The Shape of Water, directed by Guillermo del Toro. I'd like to start out by asking you guys, what's your initial thought on the film? Like, overall, had you seen it before? After you watched it, what were the first thoughts that came to your head?
Dave, I'm going to let you go first on this one if you want to.
I had seen it before, and I enjoyed it, and I thought it was a pretty wild film story-wise. Visually, it's stunning, and the performances are great. And I was very much taken with the uniqueness of it. And I think we had mentioned this before, but Hollywood always complains, and people that watch movies complain about Hollywood not being original. Well, here you go. Here's a pretty unique, a fresh one for you. And lo and behold, it pretty much took home some honors and was rewarded for it. So I think kudos to them for this.
This is my first time seeing this, even though this is something that I probably should have watched because I enjoy Guillermo del Toro movies and everything. And this is weird and quirky and everything, and all the weird places. And I remember people talking about some stuff, and it came to me as I was watching the movie about 5 minutes and 10 seconds into the movie. There was one part that I was watching, I'm like, I swear that there's something in this movie, and I'm like, oh, there it is. So, there's that. I thought this was great. I regret that I have not, that took me this long to see this movie. So, Derek, thank you for allowing us to watch this movie and discuss it. Also, on a plus side, since I've had kind of a week to think about stuff before I knew that we had to re-record this, I've also come to some new realizations, so I guess that's kind of a benefit, maybe? Also, I'd like to think that time wasn't wasted. It was just three friends enjoying a conversation with each other.
100%.
No one will ever hear.
100%. I'm kind of in line with you, Justin. I'd never seen the film before. I knew about it. Obviously, it won a lot of awards. It was on everybody's radar a couple years ago. And I knew it had to do with some sort of cryptid-type creature, some sort of lizard man, fish man, something. And that's about all I knew. And boy, was I shocked when we got into this film. There was some stuff in here I didn't expect. Let's put it that way. Maybe we should do
10 seconds.
5 minutes, 10 seconds it starts. Maybe we should do a really quick synopsis of what this story is actually about for those that haven't seen it and don't plan on watching it. If you plan on watching, I suggest you guys stop right now. But anyway, essentially this takes place in around, I want to say 1960 in Baltimore, Maryland. And the main lead is, I can't remember her character's name. It's been so long now.
Justin for the assist.
Elisa.
Yes.
So Elisa is a cleaning lady at this military installment, this research center of some sort. And
DARPA.
DARPA. And she happens to be deaf. Or no, sorry, she happens to be mute. She's not deaf. So anyway, she's working at this place, and all of a sudden they bring in this fish man. I guess he's a fish man type person. And not only does she fall in love and break him out, but they have a sexual affair. I think more than once throughout the movie. And that is the really strange part of the film, in my opinion. So at any rate, he gets the jailbreaked, and I guess he turns her into a fish person as well, and they escape into Baltimore Harbor or whatever that place is called. That's my synopsis anyway.
And I have some points I want to point out later when we discuss, like, I guess, theories and stuff like that. Because, like I said, having a week to think on this, I've kind of come to a different conclusion than I have before, so... Which no one will ever hear. But our hearts remember.
There are a lot of things in this film that people have been talking about, whether they're Easter eggs or whether they're inspiration or what's going on, what exactly is happening. And one of the things that's mentioned in the film itself, in the dialogue, is that the fishman is some kind of god that they found in the Amazon. The people, the tribes around there, worshipped him as a god. And I think there's a debate on whether or not, would he be a god, or is he just some sort of creature? Is he an alien? Is he a cryptid? So that's stuff we can, come back to. Also, don't let me forget to circle back on the Lovecraft part of this that people love to lump in or at least draw conclusions to.
Also, I know this is brought up a lot in the movie. There's a lot of commentary on a lot of different levels of stuff. There's commentary on race. There's commentary on gender identity. There's commentary on sexism. There's commentary on a lot of different stuff. And while all of that is going on, there's this story of this mute woman and this aquatic fishman falling in love with each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's really touching.
So thank you. Worked all week on that.
So the film actually stars Sally Hawkins as the main lead. How do you say this? Octavia.
Octavia.
Yeah. Okay. I might have wrote it down on Octavia Spencer. I know who she is. I just couldn't remember how to say it. Michael Shannon and my favorite Richard Jenkins. Richard Jenkins plays Giles, the neighbor, who Justin was talking about a minute ago. It sort of in a way where we mentioned it touches on a lot of issues. He happened to be a gay man in 1960 Baltimore, which, as we see in the film, is not a very popular thing. So they really touch on a lot of social issues from not only that time, but current day as well.
Sure. He has a great line in the movie, too. The whole, I feel I was born either too late or too early for my time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great line because he is a great artist. He's struggling with a lot of stuff. I think I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's very much implied that the reason he doesn't have the job anymore that he had is because of his lifestyle choices and everything. I mean, did you guys pick up on that?
There may have been some
hinting.
What did what's the D word?
Drinking. He mentioned drinking. He said, "Are you still drinking?" And he said, "No, not a drop."
No, it was.
I knew that's not what you meant, but I just
discrimination. Sorry,
yeah,
yes.
Grief. There may have been some discrimination over his sexual orientation. If not heavily implied, then outright winked at.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other discrimination in the movie. There is the two characters go to a diner at one point, and there's a gentleman there that the character likes and everything, and then it's kind of revealed later that he is very he does not take well to the African American individual, and it comes out very suddenly in the movie too, and it's kind of one of those things to where I feel like the character's like, I kind of dodged a bullet with that, but there is racism and everything brought up in this movie too. Because Michael Shannon's character, who I think this surprises no one, is he's the villain.
Oh, yeah, he's the monster in the movie, I think.
Bingo, Mr. Monsters Among Us. I knew you could pick out one when you saw it.
My specialty.
He is the true villain in this movie because not only is he is just, Okay, I'm going to explain this, and sorry for spoiler alerts real quick. The way we're introduced to his character is they are cleaning the men's bathroom. He comes in, walks up to a urinal, and just puts his hands on his hips as he uses it. If that is not the biggest, I'm trying to PG this comment, but D-bag move I've ever seen, then I mean, it's just, it paints his character instantly.
Douche?
Why didn't
you can't say douche on air?
I'm pretty sure we can say douche.
Okay, I was respecting...
Douche is okay. We can say douche all we want. Zinger, say douche.
Douche.
There you go.
Oh, he said it.
Yeah, no, I was being respectful. I didn't know where we were going to draw the line with this, so I didn't want to be the one to break that bubble. So, douche.
Well, that's what beeps are for.
Anyways, so he does the most douchebaggy move of all time, just sitting there, peeing into the urinal with his hands on his hips, just talking to these two cleaning ladies. Also, does not wash his hands, which, I mean, in the day and age we live now, that is... One, not washing your hands before this was questionable. Not washing your hands now, it's like, but yeah. And then proceeds to eat candy with his unwashed hands.
Oh, yeah.
And they were in the room.
Power
I should
move.
point out that the two ladies that were cleaning the bathroom are still there, just 5 feet away from him.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you don't need to leave. Stay for this.
Yeah, and then he explains why he didn't wash his hands.
Yeah, clearly,
he makes a big deal about it.
Clearly, a power move on his part to what's the word? Now I'm pulling a David. I can't think of the word now.
Discriminate.
Yeah, discriminate.
Yes. Is it douche?
Yeah, to apply his dominance. Assert his
Another
dominance.
D
That's
word.
the word I was looking for. He is the monster in the film. There may be a literal monster, but this guy was pretty evil. And I don't know what his role was there. Maybe it says in the credits.
Give me 1 second.
He was head of security, I believe, wasn't he?
I think so.
I think that was said at some point. He was.
Yeah, I don't know that he was a scientist.
No, he definitely wasn't a
Can't
scientist,
remember.
and I don't believe he was in the military either. I think he was just a civilian.
That's funny.
Yeah, there was something weird about him, but he was a gnarly character. Let's put it that way.
Perfect part for Michael Shannon.
Oh yeah, he did it brilliantly.
You could tell me that Guillermo del Toro followed him around with a camera and just didn't actually tell him he was in a movie, and I'd believe it. It's just Michael Shannon being angry.
He's so convincing.
According to this, Richard Strickland, U.S. State Colonel. So apparently he is.
Oh, he was.
Okay.
Apparently he has a rank. I don't know if he was actively in the military because I know he reports to that general guy.
Yeah. The general. I can't remember the name of the general. We're just nailing this today. General Hoyt actually shows up, and he's the guy that's kind of putting the pressure on. Like, we got to figure out what's going on with this amphibian guy.
Played by Doug Jones, by the way. You didn't mention.
Yes, he nailed that
part of it.
But at a certain point, they want to dissect the creature. They're not getting the answers they need just by observing it. They want to cut it open, and that's when she decides she's going to bust it out. So it's kind of General Hoyt's role in this film, is to kind of put pressure on Michael Shannon's character to figure out what's going on here and get this thing taken care of. And if there's nothing, then get rid of it. Kind of their philosophy.
And there's Russians.
And there's Russians.
Well, and that's the other thing. This is the middle of the space race, and they kept saying this is our like dog in space, or this is our cutting this thing open is going to solve all of our problems, sort of thing. And it's like I don't see how that works, but okay. Am I just misremembering that scene?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, you guys got something. I'm like,
well, I just didn't want to disagree with you. I agree with what you said.
Perfect, excellent. Moving on. The Russians,
and
we don't mean people running around.
Who wants to describe this little subplot that was going on with the Russians? I'd volunteer, but I'm not real sure I followed all of it as closely as I should have.
Same here.
So you have this this scientist working for the I'm just gonna keep saying DARPA, even though it's not DARPA, but it's just fun to just keep saying DARPA. You have the scientist working for DARPA who is a Soviet spy who is also having to do like all the cliche, when he goes and meets his handlers or whatever, he has to say the code word and everything, and then they take him to another location. And the location, of course, is in the back of some restaurant where there's a private table, which do those exist? Like, I just gotta ask, is there restaurants that have, like, if you go through the kitchen, if you go through, there's like a back room and they have private meetings? I just wonder that sometimes.
It has to exist somewhere. Back east,
it has to. Maybe. But, so, his job is to find out as much as he can about this creature as well. And he's trying to, of course, when they go to dissect it or want to dissect it and everything, he's trying to convince them not to kill it because he wants it alive, because this is kind of his big thing for the Russians. He wants to get, the character's name is Dmitri, he wants to get this specimen for the Russians and everything. And, of course, he works with our heroes and everything to, of course, help them get it out of there. But I just found that very interesting how it had, like, the cliche, like, using code words, going to some other place. They're, of course, eating steak and everything and being all Americanized while still being, of course, Russians and everything. And it also very tense scene because it kind of becomes a spy thriller at one point because he keeps on thinking they're going to kill him, his own people, because he isn't able to deliver or might be a liability at this point. So it kind of adds that little spy thriller elements into there too. So this movie works on a few different levels at certain times, which I really enjoyed because it has a nice little dash of everything in here.
Could you imagine finding yourself in the situation that his name in the film was Dr. Robert Hofstetler, mm-hmm. but he went by Dmitri as his Russian name. Can you imagine being in his position where no matter what move you make, you're doomed? There's nothing that guy can do. He helped the creature escape. He got it out of there. Mm-hmm. Still didn't save his hide. He still got whacked in the end. If it wasn't the U.S. military, it was the Russian military after him. Either way, he was kind of screwed.
That probably informed a lot of his character's decisions because he kind of had a heart of gold in a way. Like I think he decided to help her because he knew he was in a rock and a hard place there.
Because if it was one of those moments where he wanted to save this thing basically from being killed or whatever the United States was going to do to it. So he just figured if it got loose and was free, that would be better because he does go to help them and everything. And he gives them, his number. He says, if you need anything, get in touch with me. And you really are rooting for this guy the whole time. And he kind of has a really kind of crap. Why do the characters we root for have like the worst endings to their storyline too? Because another spoiler
life, baby.
alert.
That's life.
Just gets shot. Also gets shot through the mouth to where he has like a gun bullet hole through his like cheek, which I'm sorry, like that is like not only is that like the worst thing to have happen, I think. I mean, I haven't been shot, but I'm like, just not that, because I can just imagine, hitting teeth and everything. But then, of course, Michael Shannon's character puts his finger in his mouth through the bullet hole to drag him away while he interrogates him, which I'm just like, once again, obviously the bad guy. And at that point, Michael Shannon's character is completely broken with reality.
And that tells you everything you need to know about that character as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yes.
I think it's a few minutes after or before he rips his own fingers off. So it kind of gives you an indication. Earlier in the film, the amphibian man, as he's credited, actually bites a couple of Michael Shannon's fingers off. The cleaning lady, Lisa, manages to find them and gives them back to Michael Shannon. And he has them reattached.
With some mustard.
But they're all black and purple sticking out of this bandage. Why they're not bandaged up, I have no idea. They're going to get infected, obviously. But and the operation didn't take, so they start getting black and pussy, and he gets mad and basically just grabs them and rips them off, and there's pus spewing out of them. It was a pretty gnarly scene.
So do you think that was metaphor for his character becoming more and more like evil or more cold-hearted, maybe? Metaphor?
Was that his literal breaking point?
I don't think it's very subtle.
Was that a separation issue?
Yeah.
Your puns are killing me right now.
So, okay, I picked this movie because it had a cryptid. And this is
let's talk about it.
Let's talk. I mean, we're supposed to be talking about monsters anyway, or something like that. So, what are you guys' thoughts on this creature? It is, I'll describe it real quick. It's like a 7-foot tall, very trim looking. I mean, it's Doug Jones as the actor, so that kind of gives you an idea of of what the body type there is. It's got little fins hanging off certain parts of the body, but it's humanoid. It's appears to be bipedal. I mean, it does walk, I guess. It has feet. It's a man mixed with some sort of fish or amphibian or something. Green skin, scaly, gills, that kind of thing. They say it comes from the Amazon. What kind of niche do you think this thing would live in, or do you think it's beyond that? Is this some sort of culture that lives under the water? Is this like it's said in the film? Is this a god of some sort? What are your guys' thoughts on the entity itself?
There's a little weird problem with that, how it was described and how they continue to describe it in the movie, because when she breaks it out of the facility, the doctor tells her that it needs a certain amount of salt water solution, which she, is able to expertly just eyeball in her own bathtub.
with table salt, no less.
With table salt. That still works, but there's a discrepancy between him being a saltwater creature and then them finding him in the Amazon, which is a freshwater river, unless, they say he was near the mouth of it or something like that. I don't know. I forget if they
some sort of
that up.
Brackish water or something. I'm sure there's like mangroves or something, near the outlet of the Amazon. But as far as I knew, it was a freshwater river system as well.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure he could survive in freshwater for a little bit. But so that was a little bit of a weird discrepancy. But I think it comes down to, is this thing extraterrestrial, or is it a cryptid that is it survives in the deep ocean, which is something even in reality we struggle to know, and we discuss that all the time. Are there cryptids or giant things living way down in the ocean where, for us, it's basically the final frontier? We still struggle to get down there and study that stuff, Yeah. So who knows?
I think it was, and I don't know what the conscious effort was here by who wrote the film. I don't know if Del Toro wrote it, or I'm going to look that up. But I don't know if, he wrote the screenplay
story
for
by,
it.
yeah. And story by.
Story by. Okay, so I don't know if he did this on purpose, but the fact that the creature came from water, and then it came from like a mysterious body of water as well, like the Amazon. It's huge. I think it's the biggest river by volume in the world, if I'm remembering correctly. Either way, it's very close if it's not the top. And it's a dark water river system. There's peat and stuff like that dyes the water a dark color. So if you're going to pull a monster out of somewhere, like that's the perfect place to pull it from. You can't say, oh, well, we went to just outside of Portland and nabbed ourselves a Bigfoot. That's a lot less believable than them going to the Amazon and
caught it in my lobster trap.
Exactly. It's going through my trash. So to me, that's a big deal right there. That says a lot. That it makes it more possible, more believable to me, and it sells the story.
Okay, so as I said, I had an extra week to think about this in the back of my mind. Did not know we had to redo it, but just kind of thinking on it. I kind of came up with this. So it is pointed out that that our main character Elsa.
Elise?
No, not Elsa. Elise. There we go. Sorry.
Thinking froze the river.
Yes, froze the river after it thawed. No, she was found abandoned as a child with wounds on her neck, 3 on each side, much like gills. And she's mute. Much like the creature can't really communicate through speaking. It communicates through, of course, sign language, same way she does, because she teaches it to it. And I feel it's heavily implied that she's part of this species, or some form of this species, in my opinion. Because in the beginning, there's that whole dialogue about, like, a princess was taken or something by her one friend characters, like, doing a voiceover. Then at the end of the movie, of course, the creature puts its hands around her neck in a healing way, not in a choke-out way. I don't know. I wanted to clarify that. And then it's shown that she's able to breathe underwater. And like I said, because their whole love story connection's very quick, and I'm like, I feel like the story was more that her and this creature are more connected than we're originally led to believe, and there's hints, I think, dropped throughout the movie.
You hit on something that I got to repeat. Their relationship seemed to evolve quickly. It seemed to evolve quickly if it was two human beings. The fact that it was a human and a lizard man or a amphibian man, it happened really quickly in a matter of weeks. So, she fell in love with a monster.
And that's why I think that there's something more, that she was like part of this creature's like that there's something between the two of them.
Yeah, there's a connection for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead. My mom's going to be something dumb.
Well, fine. I'll go. Last time we talked about this, last time we did the show, I didn't realize that the creature, I guess, put its hands around her neck and did that motion. I guess I missed that somehow. Mm. And that makes perfect sense to me because I thought he killed her. I thought she was already dying, so he's just like, oh, screw it. We'll just go in the water. Maybe I'll eat her or whatever. But
okay, I gotta make the joke once again. So romance written by Derek Hayes. In the end, she drowned. The creature took her away. Perfect love story.
Hey, a man can dream.
To maybe eat her. Sorry, to maybe eat her. I gotta put that on the end there.
Yeah. Well, she's not gonna fulfill that anymore. Might as well use it for something.
Well, I mean, he's already established the fact that he bites fingers off, so it's possible. And he did eat a cat halfway through the film, which
that's true.
That was a disturbing scene.
Very much so.
So something that we haven't mentioned yet is that it has healing powers because it gets shot
I guess that
several times actually, and is able to heal the wounds and doesn't die from them, and then that happens at the end as well, and then he puts his hands around her. Does she get shot too?
Yeah.
Yes.
She gets shot, and then he puts his hands around her. I think he heals her wound and then opens the gills up. So he's got some kind of power, and it's kind of like it's kind of like a Wolverine cleric or something. He can heal himself and lay on hands, and that's a step above just being a fish hybrid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We mentioned last time we did. Again, I'll keep referencing this. That it is part amphibian according to the description here, and amphibians do have the power of rejuvenation of certain limbs. Obviously, they don't wave their hand over it and a bullet hole's gone. That's not how it works. But if it isn't a more evolved version of these creatures, would they be able to control that a little better? The cell regeneration, or however that works? I'm not even sure how that works without researching it. For the sake of the story, is that a leap to think that maybe that's how these abilities were achieved? The fact that it's just part of the species that's able to do that anyway?
I'm more on board with this than the bathroom scene. So, tell you what, that's more believable than what happened with them flooding the bathroom.
I would agree with that.
Which I'll talk about in a second.
To me, it's a step beyond just something natural. Like it does definitely seem either supernatural in origin or something that even species of this earth can't normally do.
So basically, alien or some sort of sentient being of some sort,
or supernatural.
Yes, I meant to say supernatural. So this thing lives. We didn't really answer this question. And I'm really curious what you guys think. It came from the Amazon. It's a one-off. We don't know of any other of these creatures that exist. Do you personally think they do? Like, just in the world of the movie, not in real life, obviously, but in the world of this film, do you think that this came from like a community of these things, or is it simply the one creature that crashed to Earth or manifested somehow or whatever, however it got here?
I'm gonna go with, I think I have to say there's more of them because I alluded to the fact that she is one of them. So, gonna say yes. Also, but here's the other thing. Maybe it has a very long lifespan since it can heal and, rejuvenate itself as long as it has its salt water and lack of getting shot a lot.
Well,
that's a good point, too.
let me throw this question out here. If it's the only one, then why does it need to procreate, which it obviously does with the main character several times?
Oh, no, that is just for fun. There's nothing about procreation going on there.
Yeah, I think for that reason alone, I think there's more of them. There's probably some kind of society of them going on.
And that would lead me to an off-the-wall theory that I remember hearing about several times over the years, the aquatic ape theory, which essentially means or suggests that, as we divulged into Homo sapiens, another branch divulged into something that went into the ocean. So now there's scaled or finned, web-toed apes that live in the water, under the water somewhere. I mean, obviously, we've never seen anything like this. The Fiji mermaid was one of the things that kind of hinted that this may be real, but obviously that's a gaffe for freak shows and entertainment. So, I don't know. I thought I'd at least suggest or throw it out there that theory does exist, and I certainly don't believe in it, but I think it's interesting that maybe this is a result of a theory like that in this world of the film. Not the real world. I just need to make sure I make that distinction. I'm not that crazy.
But is such a thing possible?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. No, I mean, every time someone says the aquatic ape theory, I immediately think of that amazing documentary on was it Discovery Channel?
The mermaid documentary?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Discovery.
We should cover that at some point on here. Just throwing it out there.
Whew, it's brutal.
I know. But I just think of that and just how it had all the quote unquote real evidence, and it's one of those things I'm like, people got paid to make this believable. People, I don't think the scientists were actors. I think they were like, could this thing be possible? And they just cut out them saying, well, no, but if it was, they cut out that part.
Yeah.
Well, they proved that they are all
them.
actors, actually. You can IMDb them and find out who they are, and they're in tons of stuff. It's important to point out that that's a mockumentary and not a documentary, and they didn't actually say that when they broadcasted it. They just broadcast it on the Discovery Channel, a channel that's supposed to be telling you the truth, and it's just total bogus. So a lot of people got really mad about that documentary, myself included.
So War of the World situation, got it.
Pretty much.
Nice.
So there was another thing I wanted to bring up here, and that was the use of the color green. There was Jell-O was brought up. There was jewelry that was green. Key lime pie that was neon green. The candy was neon green. There were so many things that were green, and then there was a part where Michael Shannon decides he's going to buy a new car, and he buys like a '60 Corvette, I think. I can't remember now; it's been so long. But either way,
Chrysler, no. Cadillac.
Cadillac. It was a Cadillac. And he says, well, it's green. I don't like the color. It's green. And he's like, nah, my friend, this is teal. And all of a sudden he was on board when it wasn't green. So there was obviously something going on with the color green that was carried throughout the film. I just couldn't really connect all the dots to figure out what it was. I should have Googled it, but I feel like that's cheating.
It would be. Also, I'm randomly holding a green D&D die right now. And that was not on purpose for this. It
the
just happened to be on my
synchronicities,
desk.
man. I can't
Oh,
believe
man.
it.
Oh, man.
If it falls in a tin can, I'm done.
Hold on a second. No,
on a scale of 1 to liminal, what would you rate this film?
So, well, not only that, it seems like there's a green filter almost used for a lot of the filming and stuff at times. There's almost a green tint to everything, and I feel like there is something. Maybe he's just really into the color green. He wants us to know. Guillermo del Toro is. I feel like there is a deeper meaning, and yes, I do feel like us looking it up is cheating. So you, dear listener at home, please comment with the knowledge of the internet on why there's so much green in this movie.
Yeah, maybe somebody out there can look it up for us, then tell us, then it's not cheating.
Exactly. It's us learning.
But
it's a great palette.
Yeah.
That he uses. It really sets scenes, and the cinematography is great.
And with a director like Guillermo del Toro, the green thing is not an accident. There's no way that's an accident. He has control over everything he's got on that screen. Mm-hmm. And you're right, Justin. He did use I don't know if it's a green or a blue filter, but he used it a lot. Whenever the Fishman was around, that was pretty much the filter that he used to kind of, I guess, juxtapose the two worlds, her life of freedom that was brighter and warmer, and then his life of solitude in this cage that was darker and blue colors, blue hues. And that kind of psychologically really throws you off. In fact, I'm looking at the IMDb page, and it's showing two scenes from two little stills from the Science Research Center, and then one from her apartment. She's like a warm yellow color, and they're both like a dark green, bluish, a cold color, a cold temperature. So I mean, that kind of stuff is incredible when people actually apply that. That was one of the things that made the film Underworld so successful early on. Is anything with the werewolves was just blue as can be. And if you go back and watch it, it's super blue, and people didn't really catch on to it at first, but it gave them that vibe, like I'm in a different world, and I think that helped sell that film a lot.
The Matrix did that really well. Yeah,
Matrix did as well. Yeah, they definitely used green as well.
Yeah,
but I'd love to know what this what message he's trying to get out here. Is this?
Well, you mentioned at one point, probably on the other conversation, that we see kind of a turn in the story or a turn in the dialogue or the action or the character choices whenever green shows up, like overtly, like the Jell-O, the candy, the pie, stuff like that. So, maybe there's something to that. Maybe it's an indicator of some, or at least when you see it like right in front of you, instead of just the palette.
And it was too. It wasn't super subtle. Like I don't think I missed too many of them. They were right in your face. Like here's the green Jell-O, and then it goes out of frame, or here's the candy right in. Each one of them were super easy to point out. I just didn't draw the connection. I don't remember saying that, but I probably did. I guess if I went back and watched it, maybe it does like hint towards some sort of behavioral changes or something along the lines with the characters.
Plot diversion.
Some sort of twist. It was the whole thing was brilliantly done, and it won a ton of awards. And if I can find the page, maybe I can tell you exactly what it won as far as the Academy is concerned. I think it won 5, if I remember correctly. Does that sound about right, guys?
4 or 5, yeah.
Sounds about right. I mean, I'm shocked it's not more, to be honest.
Well, it was nominated for, I believe, 10 Academy Awards and took home 4 or 5. I can't find the page that had all this info on it.
It won in 4 categories: best production design, best original score, best director, and best picture. It is the second fantasy film to win best picture after Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. Why doesn't it have any more than that? Oh, list of accolades received. Okay, there we go. All right, Academy Awards. It was nominated for best picture, best director, best actress, best supporting actor, best supporting actress, best original screenplay, best cinematography, best costume design, which I am shocked it didn't win for, because that fish costume is amazing. Best film editing, best original score, best production design, best sound editing, and best sound mixing. I'm going to ask a stupid question because I feel like this is a personal thing and maybe I can finally get the answer. What is the difference between sound editing and mixing?
I should know the answer to that question. I would say mixing would be like a final polish on the levels. Okay. Kind of like color correction for audio would be my guess.
And then the editing is chopping together the
editing's the editing. The film, you get raw footage and you have to like cut that into the storyline. There's a huge difference between the two. It's just I don't know what each element is, but that's the basis of it.
So I was asking. Sorry, go ahead, David.
It won 4, but the field it was up against was no walk in the park to win against. It had some competition for all the categories. What was Dunkirk was out that year.
I got the list.
The Post. Yeah, go for it.
Call Me by Your Name, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Get Out, Lady Bird, Phantom Thread, the prequel to The Phantom Menace, The Post, 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. So not a easy one for. I mean, not a walk in the park. Not that Best Picture ever is a walk in the park, but I mean, I know. I know Get Out was a big one that took a lot of awards. Dunkirk is one of those movies that's like visually astounding. The Post. I'm a sucker for Steven Spielberg, so I'm just going to say Steven Spielberg was involved. So, I mean, come on. But yeah, I mean, it took that, and like I said, like we've said, many other awards that year.
I have some interesting trivia that I just stumbled upon that I'm going to throw a few facts out here. Starting off with Richard Jenkins, the gay neighbor character, was originally written for Ian McKellen, which I think would have went well as well. Doug Jones obviously played Abe Sapien in the Hellboy series, also amphibian-type creature. Guillermo del Toro actually wrote the film for Sally Hawkins and Michael Shannon. He wrote it for both of them. And he said he didn't have a backup for either one. And then here's my favorite one. When it won the Oscar for Best Picture, Michael Shannon was sitting in a bar in Chicago. David, do you know Old Town Ale House by chance?
Oh, I absolutely do. I've spent many a night there.
So according to IMDb here, this is what it says. Michael Shannon was at a Chicago bar, Old Town Ale House. The moment the film won Best Picture at the 90th Academy Awards, the bar's owner waited until after the ceremony was over to post a picture to Twitter of Shannon nonchalantly sitting at the bar alone with a pint of beer watching the broadcast. How badass is that?
You could have been with them. You could have been sitting there with them.
Oh, he definitely could have been there. He's probably nominated, I imagine.
Oh no, I meant David could have been sitting at the bar with him.
So that pub is right across the street from Second City, and it's right down the street from Red Orchid Theater, which he is a member of and performs at from time to time.
Nice.
It's just a little dive bar. It's where, you get done with the Second City show, you head over and just go to town on some PBR, old style, really.
My Michael Shannon connection, it's not even mine. It's through some friends, but I have a lot of friends from Chicago, actually. They moved out here and they're actors here, but one of my good friends, Corinne, was in a play where she was in a play with Michael Shannon and she had to make out with him. So she would talk about that all. Oh, I got to make out with Michael Shannon one time. So at some point she was in a play in Chicago with him. So I guess he's a Chicago native then?
I think so.
And the other one that really struck out to me was that the creature's design was heavily inspired by the creature from the Black Lagoon, which was filmed in 1954. And Michael Shannon's character even says, as we mentioned, that it came from the Amazon, and that's also where the creature from the Black Lagoon came from. So maybe it's the same world or something along those lines.
Well, let's talk for a second about some of that inspiration that has been talked about. One of them, you mentioned the Hellboy character of Abe Sapien. Almost spit an image of this, the practical suit they had him in, I guess. And people have said, is there a connection between this and that character? And Zinger, you looked up at one point to see where in the timeline that would take place, right?
Yes. Abe's. I know that his name comes from a note that was left on his tank, and this is like when they found him like in a storage unit or something. They found a note on his tank that was dated the same day that Abe Lincoln was assassinated, so that's where his name comes from, but he has no memory of before that time, like after they got him out and everything.
That guy's old. That's,
yeah, exactly.
April 14th, 1865.
Yes. Also, yeah. I got a weird Michael Shannon fact that's actually vaguely relevant. He's from Kentucky. And also he split between Kentucky and Chicago, Illinois. So David.
Uh-oh. Sorry guys.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. He's so good, I wouldn't be surprised at all. David just starts peeing right in front of us.
I'm screaming at the Skype.
I will find him.
I want to throw out two other trivias, and I'm going to leave that alone. One, the main character, Elise, is what her name was.
Elsa.
Elsa. She progressively, man, I can't remember the name either. She progressively wears more red throughout the film. The further into the film you get, the more red she has on. I didn't notice that, but that was something mentioned. And this is the biggest one, and I don't know why I didn't lead with this. This is the only science fiction film to win the Best Picture.
Wow.
That's huge. And I hope that would open some doors, but unfortunately, I don't know that it did.
It closed more of them.
It's I don't know. It's strange. But to circle back real quick to the inspiration, a lot of people have connected it to Lovecraft because Del Toro is a huge Lovecraft fan. He's been trying to figure out how to make a Mountains of Madness movie or, Call of Cthulhu, something with Lovecraft. And a lot of people have said, well, this is one of the deep ones and that's how he's kind of getting the snot in here. And I don't think it is ultimately, because the deep ones in Lovecraft lore, they are a kind of a human fish hybrid race that lives in the water under the sea, and
Under the sea.
they worship Dagon and Cthulhu. Dagon just basically being a giant version of one of these creatures, and they're introduced in Shadow over Innsmouth, and the whole thing about that story is that the residents of Innsmouth, the fictional town that Lovecraft came up with, the residents are descendants and interbreeding with the deep ones, and they're actually hybrids who change more and more into fish people as their life progresses, and it's to the point where in the later stages they definitely have the bulgy eyes. They've got big open mouths and lips, and they just look disgusting until at some point they cannot resist the urge to go home, and they rip off their clothes and jump into the sea and are never seen again. And so in that story, the main protagonist is basically finding all this stuff out about Innsmouth, and I won't spoil it because it's a fun twist and it's a good story. But in this movie, none of that is really happening.
I disagree.
You don't think that someone do you think that she is turning into something?
It sounds like you just described her character, honestly.
Well, see, I wasn't sure because she's not really exhibiting anything fish-like except for those gills, and those are just marks that she's always had.
Yeah.
As opposed to them developing over her life, or she getting more and more, grotesque as she ages. Not that we see her age a lot, but she's 25 or something in the film, and she looks pretty healthy, as a human then. So I don't know. You could there could be a case made either way, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, just as you were describing it, I was thinking she obviously was different. There's something different about her the entire film. It's not just that she's mute. It's not just that she lives next door to Richard Jenkins' awesome character. There's something strange about this woman. And he even hints at it. She's a princess. He calls her a princess for some reason. In the opening dialogue, there's a voiceover that's kind of like setting up a story, once upon a time kind of situation. I couldn't tell you what all he said, but he did refer to her as a princess. So I'm wondering if maybe she was missing and found. Nobody knows where she came from. Did she grow up in Innsmouth? And, how far, where is Innsmouth, by the way?
Massachusetts.
Oh, it's in Massachusetts. Okay, so she's in Baltimore. That's not a distance.
Coast.
I mean, that's not a big distance. I mean, I'm grabbing at straws here, obviously, but knowing Guillermo del Toro and knowing his work, I wouldn't be surprised if that had a huge influence in it. And that's directly where that story might have came from. Maybe he imagined, what if somebody left that town? What if a young lady left that town and, she didn't heed that call, but then somebody came and found her kind of situation. And maybe that's where the story came from. That conjecture, 100% conjecture, but I just love to explore ideas of how some of these stories might have been thought up. Like you think of something like Fight Club. How did Chuck Palahniuk come up with Fight Club? Like how? Where?
Yeah.
Like whose mind was that in?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I like it.
I hope this opens doors for him to really get some kind of Lovecraft movie made. And I just recently watched The Color Out of Space with Nicolas Cage being like at an 11. And, I thought it was pretty good. I don't really know if there's much to compare it to, but it was very interesting, and it's hard to do cosmic horror on film. It's hard to, it works so well on the page because you're doing all the work yourself for it. So it is a task to get one of those done. I hope he continues to try to find a way to make an actual Lovecraft horror film.
Well, I can tell you, we did some digging on the last recording that you guys will never hear, and we discovered that the budget to this film was only $20 million, which is nothing. That is pennies on a film like this, like literal pennies. To give you an indication, I used to work in film, and we shot Lincoln Lawyer for, I think, $24 million, something along those lines. Hopefully my boss isn't listening and yelling at me because I can't remember, but my old boss, I should say. But the point is, you look at Lincoln Lawyer, not a bad movie, but not the same, not even close to the same kind of movie we're looking at with The Shape of Water. And they did it for even less than what we did.
Yeah.
Now, granted, Guillermo del Toro has a lot of pull in Hollywood right now. He's had some pretty big movies. So if he says, I want to do this movie, it shouldn't be too hard for him to get it made. So I guess that's kind of a silver lining for your Cthulhu universe, your Lovecraftian stuff. It may happen. It may still happen because he does have a lot of pull. I love the guy. I watched Conan O'Brien did a tour of his house. I think it was what's his sidekick's name? Andy
Richter.
Andy Richter. I think Andy Richter went to his house with a video crew and just walked around looking at stuff. And man, the collectibles he has, like some of the original Hammer horror, some of the original Frankenstein, Dracula stuff, like incredible. Obviously, the stuff from his films, which is incredible as well. I'm just a big fan of his, and I thought he did a brilliant job with this film.
I had something and I completely forgot what it was.
Well, after my 10-minute rant, I'm not surprised.
Whoops. Don't worry, it'll come to me. Oh, that's what it was. So not to put this, I guess some people would consider it a curse on stuff, but with the whole cinematic universe, everyone wants to have their built-in film franchise, guaranteed movies, blah, blah, blah. I don't understand why the Cthulhu mythos has not really been touched on that much, or even, really... I guess we're all waiting.
It's high concept.
Yeah, it's too big of a world to...
Yeah, it I think even beyond the world, because, Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, those are huge. But
true.
I think the concept of the type of madness that is inherent in a Lovecraft story is very hard for an audience of normal folk to sink their brains into. You know what I mean? And then, of course, like I said, the cosmic horror aspect, a lot of them are described as indescribable. Like you're not supposed to be able to tell what the hell you're looking at. So... It's already got built-in things that are tough to get it made.
I think he could do it.
He could certainly try, and he'd have my blessing.
It'll happen
what
eventually.
What the film make? It was like 160 million worldwide or something.
It brought in 195 million, which is
195,
which is pretty good. I think that's worldwide.
That's some walking around money.
I can verify. Yeah, that's worldwide.
That's enough money to burn a wet mule.
It looks like it was. It looked like it was pretty popular internationally. It only did almost 64 million here, which is nothing to shake a stick at. But
still, 3 times as
did 131 internationally. So it kind of tells you that I think this is a higher brow film, so it didn't really land with a lot of Americans. And I don't mean that as an insult in any way. It's just not the kind of entertainment a lot of people in our country look for. Honestly, it just isn't.
Well, it's easy to get stuck on the fish coitus part.
It's a love story America was not ready for.
Yeah, the pescoidal pesca coitus.
He was after that bass.
Pesca coitus. There you go. You just invented a new religion. We're coming for you, Rob Morphy. We're coming for your cult.
Oh man.
Well, guys, let's wrap this guy up. Let's end on a suggestion. Would you guys suggest that people watch this movie? If so, why? If not, why? And I guess your final thoughts.
I'll go first. You know what? This is a movie I regret taking so long to see. I understand why it won so many awards. It is a great movie to watch. Okay, I guess what I want to say is this: if anyone ever wants you to reenact the scene from Notebook, you fire back with, "I want to reenact the scene from Shape of Water where we flood our bathroom and just totally destroy either our safety deposit or renter's insurance."
And the theater below. We got to talk about this scene real quick before we go.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, this is what she's already broken I keep calling him the lizard man. She's already broken the amphibian man out. He's chilling in her bathtub or the neighbor's bathtub. With a little discrepancy about which apartment this is.
It is her bathtub. I am saying it's her bathtub.
I'm saying it's not her bathtub because he stumbles outside and eats the neighbor's cat. So why is the cat
because
in her
they left
house?
the doors open. They left the doors open.
Well, that's very, very irresponsible.
You, the listener at home, who's correct? Let us know. Anyways, continue.
So anyhow, what was I talking about? Oh, okay. So, and that's when she decided that, this is the guy for her. And they start getting a little hot and heavy. She's like, oh, hold on, I got an idea. So they're trying to do all this in the bathtub, not enough room, whatever. So she shoves some towels under the door crack, and just turns the sink on. So the room fills completely with water.
Yeah, within 10 minutes.
And they live above a movie theater. We should point this out. So the theater goers below, they're looking up and there's water dripping on them. The reality of this situation is that every gallon of water weighs about 8 pounds. And that room looked like it was 20 by 20. I can't do the math, but that's a lot of water, weighs a ton. And it's just basically on the roof of this theater, the whole thing would collapse. That scene really made me mad. You're right, Justin.
Took me out of the movie.
That one in the dance scene was a little
the dance scene, yeah.
You know what?
La La Land kind of.
I'm more on board with the weird La La Land than I am with the totally unrealistic taking me out of the movie scene of them flooding a bathroom. Oh, and then they just open the door, all the water pours out, and it's just kind of a whatever thing about 10 minutes later.
It all just dries up.
The 1960s, when water dried up real quick.
So would you recommend it, though, Justin?
Yes, I would. I would definitely recommend it. Like I said, I regret that it took me this long to see it. And Derek, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity and the excuse to actually have to sit down and watch it. So thank you on that. I was
trying to find something new and different than what we've been doing in the past, and I think I found it.
Unlike other stuff we've watched, I don't regret this afterwards.
What is it? You missed all those very, very close-up shots of people's faces and all the smoking, like
yes.
Dan Aykroyd just sitting in the corner smoking.
You know what? I knew there was something missing from this movie. Dan Aykroyd smoking in the corner would have been would have won more awards. Anyways, David, what did you think?
No, I like this. I like the picture, and like I said, I would recommend seeing it just based on the fact that it's so fresh, so creative, so unique. I don't think
other adjectives
that it's nothing like the rehashes that we're seeing more and more. It's nothing like the remakes and the sequels that are, it's not the seventh film in a series or something. It is what I think people ask for, which is kind of a funny thing when you think of it. And I think people get stuck on the weird stuff and the sexual stuff on it a little bit too much, when there's a whole beautifully shot, beautifully acted movie there that you can really get some cool entertainment from. And we mentioned it touches on so many different issues that are still we have to deal with today, unfortunately, like the racism, the sexual discrimination,
sex with fish,
sexism, and bestiality, like. But yeah, like it does it in a way that is very smooth, and it really sets not only scenes up in every part of the film, it sets characters. You immediately know what the characters' motivations are and what kind of, who you're rooting against and rooting for. And I think it handles all those issues very very well. And on top of it is this love story that is weird, but if you take away certain aspects of it, it fits right in with this world of oppression and discrimination and what is right, what is wrong, who's the monster and who's not. I think it's very well put together and really worth a watch. If you really like that sort of weird but also very well acted storylines,
Yeah. I would completely agree with both of you. I thought the film was super simple. That was what it had going for it the most. The story wasn't complicated. Nothing was complicated about this film. It was very simple. She met this guy or thing, fell in love with it, broke it out, and then that was it. That was basically the story. There was plenty of detail to keep you interested. There was no low parts of the film, I didn't think. The pacing was really good. The performances were phenomenal. Michael Shannon alone just carried that thing. Richard Jenkins, I think he was actually nominated for an Oscar for his performance. It's just really good stuff there. The music I thought was really good. Who was that? Alexandra Desplat, I think, did that.
Yeah. That was one of the Academy Awards it won.
Oh, okay, yeah. Did I say Alexandra? I meant Alexander. Or which one is it? Alexandre? It's Alexandre.
Alexander.
I don't remember.
Blah.
Man, I'm from the sticks of Ohio. I'm lucky I could pronounce anything. Let's be honest. But yeah, just the fact that it was so beautiful and it's a timeless story. You could watch this story 50 years from now, and I think it would still it'd still speak to you. I highly recommend it. Don't watch it with kids, and do your best to get past the squeamish parts. There are some scenes in there that make you uncomfortable, but my best advice is that before you start it, just accept the fact that you're going into a different world. The world you're going into has different rules. The world you're going into has different probabilities. Like, everything's just different in this world. So if you go into it with that thought, I think you'll have a better viewing experience.
And you know what? If you make it to 5 minutes, 11 seconds in, then you're in there for the rest of the ride.
That's when Sarah left the room. So,
is that the egg timer scene?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. And it kind of gives you an indication early on that she likes water a lot.
So Derek, if that's the neighbor's tub, then she's got some cojones.
That's a good point. But I assume both of their bathrooms would look the same because I'll have to... Man, I don't know. Maybe you're right, Justin.
Yeah. Also, I found out why there's all the green in the movie, too. But I will not say anything because, once again, I told the listener to let us know.
All right. Well, tell us when we're done. So,
all right.
For Knights at the Round Table, I have been Derek Hayes of Monsters Among Us. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or wherever fine podcasts are sold.
I've been David Flora of the Blurry Photos podcast. You can find me at blurryphotos.org and also wherever fine podcasts are free.
I'm Zinger from the Zingness podcast. You can find me wherever free podcasts are free to roam out in the fields that they enjoy. Unlike those paid podcasts that Derek has.
Yeah.
Zingness is free range.
Free range.
Screw me and my money.
Oh, man.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for doing all this, and we will catch you guys on the next roundtable.
Bye.
Bye.